Welcome to the Amanda Hall Psychic Mini Workshop Series. We're up to workshop number 55. This week we're going to be talking about the Sun in Pisces. Now, I know for many of you, you sort of think, why are we're working at this time of the day? But the USA has gone into daylight saving time. So to keep everything uniform and to keep it directly behind my show out of Grenville in South Carolina in the USA, we are actually broadcasting an hour earlier now until the first week in November of 2019. So I do apologize for those of you that think you've got to get out of bed earlier, but that's okay. You can always watch it on the replay. Let me introduce myself. My name is Amanda Hall Psychic. I've been in the psychic industry here on the Gold Coast for over 40 years now. Been inducted into the Psychic Hall of Fame here in Australia in 2013. And for the last 6 years in a row, I've won Psychic of the Year, which is voted by the public. So I want to take the opportunity to thank everybody that's voted for me yet again, for me to win it for the 6th year in a row. It's really a very humbling experience. So let's get down to some T's and C's of the show. This is a mini series of a mini workshop series that we do here each week. We do work with, each month we work with the new moon and the full moon, and then we fill it in with two other subjects. We look at the sun sign for the month, and then we look at another psychic subject that we talk about for the 4th week in the month. So for those of you that you're new to the show, welcome. We love to have you. I don't give shout outs during the show. If you want to leave your name in the comments box and say where you're from, I will get back to you with a little hello and a wave from Australia in the next 48 hours. I don't give away free readings in this segment. I do that previously on my show out of A1R Psychic Radio here on Facebook Live, and it goes on to many forms of social media around the world, and it's a weekly show that I've been doing for over 2 years there with them, and we do 2 complimentary readings on that. In this segment, I want to keep it about education and sharing with you some of my knowledge and wisdom that I've amassed along the way. Plus, we also work with a soy candle of the week that is from one of my range of 28 candles. So we always tie the workshop in with that to teach you how to bring your intent, purpose and direction more into your life. This week we're working with the sun sign of Pisces, as we're in the Piscean time of the year. And I am happy to answer any questions that you may have about the workshop here on the post on the feed. I'll get back to them in the next 48 hours. But I want to sort of share with you how we work with the Piscean energy. And you might say to me, but Amanda, I'm not a Pisces, so this really doesn't affect me. See you next week. Well, it does actually affect each and every one of us, even though you may not be a Pisces. I'm not actually a Pisces, I'm a Sagittarian. But I do understand that we all have a Pisces segment in our astrology chart, and we all need to understand how that affects us, and particularly when the sun goes into that particular sign at this time of the year, every year, why we have subtle changes in our lives and our energy shifts, and sometimes we feel more positive and sometimes we feel not so positive. Sometimes we feel more emotional, and other times we feel as if we could take the world by storm and nothing's going to penetrate our armor. And this is because the sun changes every 28 days. It follows the zodiac around, and actually Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac, or the 12th sign of the zodiac. So it's almost like the year is coming to an end on an astrological level, because next month we go into our new sign, or the beginning of the astrological year, with the sun in Aries. But for the moment we're working with the sun in Pisces. Now the sun in Pisces is a water sign. It's what's known as a mutable sign. So mutable means it's flexible. It means it has the ability to balance the scales, to go up, to go down, to sort of look at things from 2 different directions. Nothing is fixed or rigid, and eventually it finds its level. Now, with it being the 12th sign, or the final sign of the zodiac, many astrologers have affectionately written it up as the dustbin cycle. It's where we dump all our trash. I personally don't believe that. I've been in astrology close on 40 years now, and I've always found the following. The Piscean energy is somewhere where the Piscean energy looks around the other 11 signs, and it says, oh good, I'll have a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of the other. So it takes on board some of the good points, but it also takes on board some of the bad points of some of the other signs too, and brings it home and says, oh, I like that and I like this and I'll keep this and I might throw that out the window. But it looks to gather things. Now I look at it as gathering a lot of wisdom and gathering things that it can use. It likes to have lots of little tools and things in its kit there that can adapt to making its own. Now, the Piscean energy is very creative. We find some of our greatest songwriters, some of our greatest musicians, filmmakers, people that write novels, that write songs, are born under the sign of Pisces. And that's because they have such a vivid imagination. They don't see anything as really a boundary or a barrier. They have this ability to take an idea, take it out into the never, never land and create 4, 5, 6, 10, 2 different endings, and looking at it from many varied sort of different versions of the truth and sort of picking the best one and taking it back to being their Piscean reality. And sometimes people label that as the Piscean truth, and it's not maybe the verbatim truth, but it's their version of the truth. And I don't know that there's anything wrong with that. Some people say, oh, that's exaggeration, that's almost bordering on the lies and deception. Well, maybe it is. But for the Piscean, what they're trying to do is create this beautiful, happy scenario where nobody's ever sad, nobody's ever sick, nobody's ever disappointed, that everybody lives in this beautiful veil of everything being peace and loving and everybody's happy. Now, I don't know that there's too much wrong with that. I mean, yes, the reality of the world is that we have things that happen that we don't particularly like and can make us sad or seen as bad luck or things that we wouldn't have wanted to happen. But if a Pisces can find a nice way to fairy floss that pink and make it palatable, I don't know that that's necessarily such a crime. Yes, it is quite often the case that they seem to be seen by other people as having no backbone, that they never grow up, they don't like responsibility, they, can be the biggest drug addicts or the biggest alcoholics on the planet. Yes, they can be, but so can every other sign be that too. It's not just exclusive to the Pisces energy. It does rule in the anatomy, the mental health or the emotional health of a person. And I have lots of Piscean friends who took me a very long time to work out what they meant by this, where we here in Australia, if we're going to have a day off work and we're not actually sick, but we're going to go to the beach or do something else, we call it, we're calling in and having a sickie. My friends used to say, I'm having a mental health day. And I used to think, what on earth are they talking about, a mental health day? And it took me a long time to realize that they felt that emotionally and physically that everything was getting on top of them. And if they didn't have a day off and do something that made them feel happy or gave them some release from this, that they would probably explode. And that's why they called it their mental health day. It was their mental or emotional health needed a day off. It needed a day to just go and do something fun and blow a gasket and release this pressure so that they could come back and become creative, go back into a very stressful job or whatever and be able to cope with it without having a meltdown. And after I realised what they were talking about, I thought, gee, we should all adopt that occasionally, have a mental health day, maybe once or twice a year, and maybe there'd be less problems in the world where people explode and lose their temper if we all sort of learnt to work with our own energy. The Piscean energy is quite often affectionately described as the two fish chasing their tail. I don't want to say that I look at it as two fish chasing their tail, because that sort of gives you the symbology of that they can never make a decision or are always confused or always swimming around in circles. As I said, I've known many Pisceans throughout my life. Many of them, I have many Piscean friends, and I'm yet to see one that doesn't have a direction. They might seem for a little while that they're not wanting to partake in this world or not get into a conversation about it, but they usually always have a lot of very long-range plans swimming around in their mind that they may not be ready to share with us yet. And I certainly haven't met one yet that doesn't have a backbone, that can't stand up and fight for a cause. It's just people's perception of them not fitting into their mold. They like to do things in their own time. They don't like to be told what to do. They do want everybody to be happy. They don't want anybody to be sad or uncomfortable or not have enough food, or, they're not necessarily always very materialistic, but they certainly want everybody to have the basics in life, like water, somewhere to sleep, some nice people in their lives, and to feel happy, to find something to be happy and joyful about. And that's really important to a Piscean. So if you're another zodiac sign and you say to me, well, that all sounds amazing, Amanda, but why would I want to learn to work with the Piscean energy? Well, it comes around once a year for 28 days, and it does affect us in some way or another, whether it's a time when, you need to sort of put your creative hat on, or sort of maybe do a little bit of daydreaming out the window, or maybe even declare a week off and have, some mental health, have a mental health holiday. It does affect us in each and every one of us in some way. So what I like to do at the Piscean time of the year, I sort of get my list out from last year that's usually floating around somewhere that I'm working with a candle on occasionally, and not just always in the Piscean time of the year. And I look at the things that I was trying to be creative with, whether that's sort of, looking towards writing a new book on something, or whether it's, working on a new project, or even just sort of looking at what I might be going to talk about on the show for the next few months ahead. And my show on A1R Psychic Radio, am I going to change the formula that I work with? Is it time to bring in something new? I am a fairly creative person, and I do like to sort of always have something ticking away in the background that sort of, I've got another project, even if I'm not ready to activate it yet, but I'm working on it, I'm formulating it in my mind. I'm a person that has a very active mind, and I need to have something sort of rolling around there that I'm starting to put down on paper. So what I would be doing with my little list, and I got mine out yesterday when I was working out what I was going to talk about on the show today, and I got my list out from last year and had a look at the things that I had hoped to achieve in this last 12 months from one Pisces segment of the year to the other. And it was really interesting to be able to see how some of those things that I thought that were important 12 months ago have now sort of just flown out the window, never to be seen again, and absolutely have no bearing or no significance on where I want my life to be going now. And it was interesting to see where 12 months ago I was so obsessed with, really sort of trying to pump up my business and making sure everybody was well informed, and, I had to do this and I had to do that, and I had to get out a weekly newsletter, and I had to try and do this. And it's sort of like over the 12-month period, I realized that there was no point in putting pressure on myself for things that I was the one that was seeing as being important, not necessarily what other people in my world seeing it to be as important. And it was like I was putting this ridiculous amount of stress on myself to achieve things because I'd done a course in something, because I'd done a course in social media, and this is what they recommended. And I just sort of blindly followed that and taken it on board, and had all these things that I had to get done in the early part of the week, and were putting pressure on myself and getting cranky with myself if I didn't achieve it because I got busy with other projects or, clients or whatever, or just didn't want to do it. And it was sort of starting to affect my health. And it was then when I suppose that I did have a little bit of downtime because of my health, and I just didn't physically have the energy or the inclination to do these things, and it fell by the wayside. And then when I did have the energy and the inclination to do it, I came back and I looked at it and I thought, I really didn't miss it. And I don't think anybody else did either. So I started to slowly work through what were the most important things that I could put my creative energy into. Instead of having 10 things on the go, if I culled that to 3 and gave those 3 things more energy that were giving me more pleasure, then I would actually probably get better results by streamlining what I was putting my energy into, rather than spreading myself so thin over 10 projects and not being happy with the results of anything. And it was amazing once I made that decision that I finally felt like as if this great burden had been lifted off me. And then it was only after that that I realized this wasn't even my version of what I wanted to do. It was someone else's dream I was living, not mine. And I think that's the important thing, that when we come back to that Pisces time of the year and we revisit our list from last year and we adjust what we want to bring in this year, we look at things in such a different way. Now, for many of you, I know that you have different ways of relaxing. Some people like to meditate. Some people like to go for a walk on the beach. Other people like to watch a good movie. It doesn't really matter. Whatever gives your body and your soul pleasure, that makes you feel happy. I'm a big person on music. I love music. I have to have music in my life every day. But I also find that I find a lot of relaxation and a lot of inspiration in watching a good movie or watching a series or something like that. And I'm a big fan of going back and watching a lot of the older series that might have been made 40 or 50 years ago, and looking at the camera work and looking at the stories and the way that they were written, the way they did the makeup, the way they did the set, the clothing, the things like that. And a lot of times that you find that there's relevant messages in things like that that might have even been produced 50 years ago, and you think, how can they be relevant for today? But they are, because they were writing a story at time that they thought was relevant that would appeal to the masses. And I think as human beings, we haven't really changed that much. Yes, the world's become busier and we've got all these devices and we've got things to keep us entertained and, you know, make our days incredibly busy that you can't go anywhere without your cell phone. And you sort of think, you know, I don't know what we did before we had them, but, you know, we certainly can't live without them now. And we feel that we've got to be available 24/7. We can't turn them off. We can't go out to dinner without checking our messages or checking some form of social media. Well, back in the olden days, not that long ago, people actually had conversations at the dinner table. And I think this is something that the world will come back to. And I think it's because of the Piscean energy asking us to see what makes us happy, what makes us tick as human beings, is going to be the sort of start of that. So if I was going to be working with the Piscean energy and working with a Pisces candle, this is what I'd be doing. I'd be taking a piece of paper. I'd be looking at my list that I wrote last year and seeing what I can cross off from that, whatever's no longer necessary anymore, or what I've deleted, or what we might need to bring over for this year. And is there something new that I might be trying to manifest or create, something that I might like to be working on? Am I, you know, am I looking to write a new book? Am I looking to do something new? Am I looking to just spend more time with the people that make me smile? You know, whatever it might be for you that's going to make your heart sing is what I want you to put on your piece of paper. And we all have a different list. For me, I'm always looking at the potential of creating a new project or a new product for the marketplace that's connected to the psychic industry. I think I'll probably be doing that until the day I depart the planet. That's always been something. I've always got another mountain to climb. It's the thing that keeps me motivated and moving forward. So for me, I'll have 3 things on my list that creative projects I'm attempting to bring into my life or attempting to develop for the next 12 months. But I'm also going to put on my list to release the things that I actually let go of in the last 12 months in a way that it was organic because I put so much pressure on myself. But I really want to make sure that I haven't got any residue of that left in my life, that I am finally releasing it. So we would write it on a piece of paper. We would put the piece of paper underneath the candle. As you go to light the candle, you read out aloud what you've had on your piece of paper, what you're intending to bring into your life. With our extra large candles, they have 2 weeks. So you might light one wick one day and the other wick the second day. That gives you a longer burn time. I like to burn my candles for 15 minutes to 2 hours per day, and I like to work on a 7-day cycle. You could work on the whole month of Pisces using the energy of the Piscean energy, and the sun sign goes into the sign as early as the 16th of the month or as late as the 26th. So each year it's a different time that the sun enters the sign, and it's a different time each year that it departs the sign and goes on to the next sign. So you can always sort of Google it. There's plenty of ephemerises these days out there, which is where we find where the planets are, that tell you where a planet is for that particular year. And that brings me to another topic that people always say to me, I'm born on the cusp. There is no such thing as being born on the cusp. If you imagine you take a pie and you cut it into 12 pieces, and I go to offer you one piece of that pie, 1/12 of that pie, that doesn't mean that you can have part of the piece next to you, or I'm going to cut a piece of my pie off and give it to you. That's what a cusp is a cut line, is a line, is a division. So you're either one sign or the other. You can't be on the cusp. You're either a Pisces or an Aries, or you're an Aquarius or a Pisces. You're not both. So that's what being on the cusp is about. So for those of you that may not have the room for an extra large candle, we have a gift box set of what we call our gift box range. This week I've made them up of 3 water sign candles, the 3 Piscean candles. You'll get 15 hours burn time out of these. So what I want you to do with your candle, write your list, pop it on a coaster, write your list, pop it underneath the candle, read it out aloud as you go to light the candle, pop it on a coaster, and never directly on the furniture, because the actual glass container gets hot, but the actual soy wax does not. And then, you know, you burn your candle for, as I said, 15 minutes to 2 hours a day for the month of Pisces. For those of you that may not want to work with a flame, you can always pick up a melt warmer. You pick these up at your local department store or supermarket. Very inexpensive. You take 2 teaspoons of your soy wax out at the beginning, adding a half a teaspoon a day each day after that, reading your list out aloud again, popping it on the coaster, popping it on the furniture. This is electric. You turn it off at the little melt warmer. at the end of the time and you want to change the wax, pop it in the little tray in the freezer for a couple of minutes. Then you'll be able to run a plastic knife underneath it and lift the soy off, wash it in warm soapy water, allow it to come to room temperature, and then you're ready to start with your new wax. So it's very interesting that we all need to sort of be looking at how we can sort of improve our lives. And I like to work with, when you're working with a candle, you're bringing in your intent, your purpose, and your direction. And if you don't have one of my candles, that's fine. You can use any candle that you've got in the house. But if you say that this is your candle that you've got at home, and you shut your eyes and you imagine that you're putting in the Piscean energy, you're manifesting that Piscean energy in it, it will work. It won't work as strongly as one of my candles that has been purposely designed for that particular energy. If you want to know more about the fragrances that are in each individual candle, if you go to my website, www.amandahallpsychic.com.au, and you look up the particular candle that you're looking for, you will find there it has a list of the type of fragrance that has been used in them. I want to be very clear, soy candles do not have aromatherapy oils in them. The reason for that is the aromatherapy oils quite often have a very high ignition rate and they would catch on fire. So please be very careful when you go to buy a scented candle and people start to tell you that it's got an aromatherapy oil, and it probably doesn't. Because of those reasons, we use a fragrance oil that has been designed specifically for candles, because they do get hot, you know, and you wouldn't want your candle to catch on fire because somebody's used an essential oil in that, and then the house is on fire before you know it, just burning a candle. So please be aware of that. I'm a person that's very, very sensitive to most things, and I find that I can't even be around incense these days. It gives me an allergic reaction. I haven't had an allergic reaction to any of the candles that we have in the 28 in our range. But, you know, having said that, if you don't like the fragrance of lavender, then don't pick the Simply Tarot candle that has lavender in it, because it's not going to sit comfortably with you. We have, you know, as I said, 28 candles in the range. There's something there for everyone. And if you're, you know, confused about which one to buy and you just want something that's a general all-around candle that you can use all the time, that you can change your intent, purpose and direction for, can I suggest Wishcraft, because that's one that you can change and make it what you want it to be. You can change your wishes daily with that one. So that's just my suggestion. So we'll be working with, next week, we're going to be working with the full moon in Libra. So if you want to join us next week for the full moon in Libra, that'll be lovely to have you with us. For those of you that are new to the show, I want to thank you for joining us. We do this every Wednesday morning here on Facebook Live. At the moment, we're starting at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time in Australia on the Wednesday morning, as the USA have gone into daylight saving time. And because I do a show previously to this on A1R Psychic Radio on Moonstruck TV here on Facebook, I work with their time zone. Up until November, we will be starting at the newer time of 1 hour earlier. For those of you that might like to book a personal reading with me, you can head to my website, www.amandahallpsychic.com.au. You will find opportunity there to sign up for our newsletter, which is free. You get a complimentary astrology chart emailed to you anywhere in the world when you supply me with your details. If you want to book a reading or buy a product or buy a tarot set from us, when you're at the checkout, if you type in capital letters Facebook, you will receive a discount. We do offer free postage here in Australia. For our overseas family, we do offer a flat fee postage. We've just been able to renegotiate a deal with our courier service, and we now are able to offer you a flat fee postage of almost 40% less than what we could a couple of months ago. So that's an amazing saving there for everybody. So until next week, I hope you have an absolutely awesome week. Don't forget to smile, and we'll see you then. Bye for now.